Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Discuss Morrowind. These episodes, we discuss the LP and how things are going, so there's no gameplay in them, as you probably know by now. The way it works is that, first of all, I talk about your feedback, then I talk about how I think things are going, and just share my general thoughts with things, and then we read some books. And this week, I think we only have the two, so I shouldn't take too long. Let's have a quick look at these and see how long they are. 10 pages there, and this is another Scotty one. I like these. 24. Okay. So I'm gonna combine the feedback from two episodes, from episode 10 and episode 11. So, in episode 10's, I'm just going to kind of breeze through a little bit because I've utilized some of the advice I got in episode 10 and episode 11. For example, someone said that I can loot gold from bodies, because you can assume that gold is in some kind of purse or container that's unlikely to be damaged or tainted during battle, and that's true. That's fair enough. Same with sort of diamonds and jewels. You're not just going to have them around your body in pockets. You're going to have them on a purse somewhere, or a wallet, or whatever the equivalent is in this. So that's why I decided that in episode 11 we had a knife. We've got a knife now, and we use this purely not for eating, because we have another knife for that. There's a knife. This is a dagger that we use for cutting people's belts, or removing their gold in that kind of way, so we can add it to our own, so we can loot gold, which is a big thing. It's only like 10 here and 20 there, but suddenly that seems to add up, so that's nice. And somebody suggested I use trinkets rather than spells, or at least I start invest in trinkets, so rings and amulets and that kind of thing, rather than spells at this stage. As we can see, we have no magicka, and the trinkets will be much more cost effective, if less flexible, but we have spells anyway, but the trinket will certainly help. So indeed, when we pick this up next, what I want to do is buy something, probably from the Mages Guild or somewhere, with a damaging spell, like a fire spell or something like that, so we can battle ghosts and scamps and things like that. So that was really good advice, something I hadn't really considered, and it's entirely right. It does kind of make more sense, and it's more viable at this stage in the game with his current resource pool. There was an OP item which I kind of missed in Balmora, in one of the modded shops, and it was a robe that fortified alteration, which constant effect, and restored magicka, 1 point constant effect, and it was only 1250 gold. Really overpowered. I can tell you that I won't be using that. Or if I do, I will spend like 30 grand on it or something like that, But for now, I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. That is really overpowered. It completely negates Karish's main weakness, apart from the fact that he doesn't wear armor and doesn't use his own weapons, is that he and can't really loot very well, and he's weak as a kitten and doesn't really have any gold, is that he has very finite magicka, and he has to keep going in and coming back of these dungeons we've found in Arkham Place. So I won't be using that, so don't worry. That's something that I'll just basically ignore. And that's kind of it. Someone else suggested that I could use like a shield spell for the rain, because it does create this physical barrier around you to keep you clean. And well, yes, it does, and that could viably work, except that shield spells pretty expensive in terms of magicka and such, and just to stop him getting wet, we can just pretend that he has a hood over him, because the rain is icky and we don't like icky things. So that was sort of week 10, but like I say, a lot of that was built into episode 10 was built into episode 11. And I mentioned quite a lot of that anyway, but yeah, the OP item, that robe, which is just over in that direction over there, we're not going to be using, so don't worry about that. That's something I'm just going to ignore. Never happened. Yada yada yada. So this week, quite a few of you had suggestions on the big question that I asked at the end of episode 11 when we teleported back into Balmora, loaded with loot, and we over encumbered. So I ditched a load of it, and you know, and then we have what we have here. I was going to sell this, and I was sort of asking, you know, how am I going to deal with this? Why would that still be there? Why would the loot that I ditched still be there at the temple? And a few of you had a couple of decent ideas, but the one I'm going to go with is basically that the temple will sort of charge you a tithe, which is a tenth, and I think that kind of makes sense. So I'm actually going to like literally do that. I'm going to see if I can work out more or less a tenth of the value of what I've got, and just ditch that. You know, drop it behind the priest or whatever, or maybe even just pay that much in cash, so that they can store that much and then I can go back and get it later. And I think that is a nice earner for the for the temple, because I'm not the only person who's going to be doing this, and I'll do it for the divine guilds as well, just to be consistent. So yeah, I'm going to sort of like work out how much I'm dropping, and then work out what a tenth of that is, and then just pay that much either by cash or by leaving one of the things there, if you like. Because I'm not the only person who's going to be teleporting about, am I? People are doing it all the time, so it's standard practice, and this sort of thing, you know, will be quite normal for adventurers, that they just load themselves down with stuff and then teleport out because they don't want to leave anything, and then they'll take the valuable things with them and leave something at the temple and then just pay a little bit, so that's stays as it is, if you like. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I shall pay a tenth, and roughly, you know, I'll use my common sense, be fair with it. Some of you wanted me to create a night eye trinket that I can use because it's really dark in the caverns. That totally makes sense. I totally agree with you. It is darker on YouTube than it is for me. That's just the way that it processes and everything. I can't really fix that, but I apologize for that. Now, night eye, I can't just do that. You understand, because I've got to have a night eye spell, which is money. Then I have to, which again I could keep casting, but then it's magicka, and as you can see, we don't have any from our last adventures. And then I have to either create, or I just have to randomly find a night eye item. So it's not as simple as just like, yeah, okay, I'll go and do that, even though I do agree that it's a good idea. So I'll just see if I can pick up some torches. That's what I'll do, because Karish can't see in the dark, neither can we. So I'll be able to equip a torch. You know, it's not really a weapon; it's something he'll be able to. You know, he can use his hands for stuff, and I'm not sure whether it'll unequip when I use the bow, but I think it'll re-equip and stuff like that. I don't know, but I'll go with torches for now. But I fully agree with you with the whole night eye thing. That totally works. The final point that I sort of like mentioned was a place to stash stuff, because we get into that kind of thing where Karish is kind of weak, so and there are some items that he kind of wants to keep, but he's got nowhere to keep them, and you know, like his Dwemer items and that kind of thing. So Chaos Corsades is the perfect solution to that, because Chaos says that we can stay there, and while Karish doesn't want to, storing stuff there in like a pack totally works. You know, and Karish wouldn't have a problem with that, you know, fill a blade and everything, trying to get on his feet. So, great idea. We're going to use Chaos Corsades house to store stuff. I'll see now, actually. Let's go and see if there's a like a chest or something in that we can use. I'm not sure if there is, frankly, but we'll just have a little look and see. Well, we can store it here, maybe. Although I don't know whether this counts as. Right. So now we've got a bounty, and now you're attacked. Anyway, is there anywhere in here? Is there anywhere in here? More to the point.
How can I help you?
That's 75 locked. I mean, I could just put stuff in this bucket. I could possibly use the that chest outside, because I could probably put stuff in here that isn't mine, that is mine, and take it out again, and people won't have an issue with it. So if we do that without dying, just casually, alright, and then I'll pick it up again. I don't think people will have an issue with it. Oh, they might do. But he said wretched thief, but I don't know whether he was talking about the previous thing. So we'll do that again. I'm just going to test this, because, you know, rather than it being in the LP. Ow. Oh, no, okay. I'm going to put some of my stuff in that crate, and then take it out again, and we'll just say that it's in his house, Karish' house. Rather than us having just like stuff strewn around Karish's place, we can put them in that crate outside. I don't know why this guy attacked me. I know he's an assassin, but it's strange how he's decided that, you know, maybe they were his eggs. I don't know. So we're gonna put these in here like this, and then we're gonna take them out again. As long as I don't. No, that's actually, yeah, there he comes again. Is there anywhere up here? No, alright, so we'll just have to, hello. Good to see you. We'll just have to, stash them in here then. Pretty much, you know. Oh yeah, there's a sack here, I could possibly use that.
You've stolen for the last time.
Oh my god, game. Alright then. So as long as I don't take his food. Ah. Now I wonder whether I can just put stuff in there and take it out again. I'm going to try that. This is the most eventful Let's Discuss episode we've ever had. I did not think that would happen. Did not think that would happen. I'm just going to try and put something on the table and then pick it up again. And I mean, it is mine. So unless there's something really buggy going on, which would be a shame. I hate you. Then, yeah, it could be an issue. Alright. Hi, KS. Alright, so we'll go there, and we'll drop these. We'll put that there. Alright, these are mine, alright? These are mine. I can pick these up. I'm going to pick them up. I'm going to pick it up. Okay, good. Right, so we can do that. So we can just put stuff on here, and say they're in some container, and Karish's stuff. Do not touch. I could even lock them if I wanted to, because I have the lock spell, which I haven't used yet, but it only cost a little bit of gold, so it doesn't matter. There we go. Lock him in there. Lol. Then he'll starve to death. Let's not save this now. So yeah, so that's the plan. I'll just keep stuff in Karish's place, and now we know how we're going to do that. Alright, so the next part of this is just me chatting about how things are going, and I really like the last two episodes because Arkenthag, wherever his name is usually like done in generally one sitting by people, and we've been there twice, and we've had to come back out again. And I like the sort of expedition, the way they set up expeditions. You know, we load up and we go in there, and we go as far as we can, then we come out again, and then we get a little bit further each time. I really like it. You know, it lends a bit of weight to going into a big dungeon and plundering it, and then, you know, the feel that it is actually costing something, that there is some exertion there, rather than running around hitting an enemy 3 times he dies, running around hitting an enemy 3 times he dies, you know, and just doing that ad nauseum until we win. Now, there'll probably come at a time in the LP when that maybe happens, you know, when Karish becomes powerful enough to do that, either with his bow, with summons, or whatever. But when and if that does happen, it will feel like we've made it, you know, because if we make a fighter character and equip properly, then we can kind of do that at level 1, level 2. But yeah, with Karish doing it level 15-ish, I don't know. So I really like how we're progressing really slowly, but there's still stuff happening. Someone commented how they really like the pace of the LP and everything, and I got to agree. You know, I really like the pace of the last 2 episodes as well, because we're doing a bit of questing, we're doing a bit of buying and selling and everything, and buck hunting and that kind of thing. But also, we're doing a bit of dungeon crawling as well, and so we're we're progressing in different ways, and we're showing different aspects of Karish's kind of character, because he's not just about the whole dungeon delving type thing. Obviously, you know, he has other interests and other aspirations. So pretty much I'm really happy with the last 2 episodes and just the way the LP's shaping up as a whole. And I like that how I've got lots of options. So, you know, in my journal I got plenty of quests. And next episode, honestly, I might go back to do some House Telvanni stuff. So Dwemer books I can get when I can afford them. So I might go and do the new clothes quest, because that's the only sort of major thing we have, I think. For House Telvanni, and then we can start onto the bigger stuff, because I don't want to go into Arkanthad or whatever the place is 3 times in a row, so we'll mix it up a bit. Maybe Karish is getting a bit jaded, so we'll travel to a shrine, a divine shrine. Probably, I mean, the easiest one is just to go to the one in Aldron, and then we'll go to here to Tel Brenor, where we've been before. So it's going to be travelling up here, travelling back down there, and then we'll wander there, and then we'll do that quest, and then we'll see what happens. So we'll do some House Telvanni stuff for a little bit, and see what we get for that. And yes, pretty happy with all that. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I really am, and obviously you guys are too as well. And your questions and your comments and suggestions are really helpful. Because yeah, it lets me do things like this. It lets me think about things that I haven't maybe thought of, and yeah, it certainly helps with the way that I'm approaching the LP, and it's sort of a fuller experience for everyone watching as well, to feel that that they have some kind of an impact in it, or that they can do. Of course, I can't guarantee that your question will be or your suggestion, I'll use it. But we can at least address it and say why and everything, because I've done that a couple of times. But yeah, I think that it sort of helps you guys feel engaged with it, and makes it a more rounded LP, because you guys coming at it from different perspectives give me ideas that I wouldn't have thought of myself. So it's better for it, I think, all around, isn't it, Karish? I think he agrees. And you guys are digging the character as well, which is really nice. Someone said it was the most interesting character in a Morrowind LP they've ever seen. Now, maybe they've never watched a Morrowind LP before in their entire lives. Could be the case. But I really wanted that, though. I wanted it to be a really unique playthrough for a really unique character. So I designed these traits of, he doesn't like getting icky, so he doesn't like getting in combat, so he doesn't actually use weapons himself, and he likes people to do his work for him, so he summons things and everything like that. And so those traits developed into his traits about him being sort of like quite arrogant, and he far above his station and everything, and that kind of thing. So, and yeah, I think it works really well, and it's going to work really well for House Telvanni as well, when that finally kicks off, which should be pretty soon. So next episode we'll probably do some more of that, unless something else crops up. But you guys think of anything, saying, no, wait, what about this? And I'm like, oh yes, we should do that first. Brilliant. Alright, we have 2 books to read. There's going to be a little jump cut, and then I actually get on with these, and hopefully you'll enjoy listening to me reading them. Alright, so our first book is a short history of Morrowind by Jeanette City. From the introduction. Led by the legendary prophet Veloth, the ancestors of the Dunmer, exiles from Altmer cultures in present-day Somerset Isle came to the region of Morrowind. In earliest times, the Dunmer were harassed or dominated by Nord sea raiders. When the scattered Dunmer tribes consolidated into their predecessors of the modern Great House clans, they threw out the Nord oppressors and successfully resisted further incursions. The ancient ancestor worship of the tribes was in time superseded by the monolithic tribunal temple theocracy, and the Dunmer grew into the great nation called Resdain. Called Resdain. Okay, Resdain was the last of the provinces to submit to Cyber Septim. Like Black Marsh, it was never successfully invaded, and was peacefully incorporated by treaty into the Empire as the province of Morrowind. Almost 4 centuries after coming out of After the coming of Imperial legions, Morrowind is still occupied by Imperial legions, with a figurehead Imperial king, though the Empire has reserved most functions of the traditional local government to the ruling councils of the 5 great houses. This is on Vardenfell. In the Second Era, the year 414, Vardenfell territory, previously a temple preserve under Imperial protection, was reorganized as an Imperial provincial district. Vardenfell had been maintained as a preserve administrated by the temple since the Treaty of the Armistice, and except for a few great house settlements sanctioned by the temple, Vardenfell was previously uninhabited and undeveloped. But when the centuries-old temple ban on trade and settlement of Vardenfell was revoked by the King of Morrowind, a flood of imperial colonists and great house Dunmer came to Vardenfell, expanding old settlements and building new ones. The new district was divided into Redoran, Hlalu, Tilvani, and temple districts, each separately administrated by local house councils or temple priesthoods, and all under the advice and consent of Duke Dren and the district council in Ebonheart. Local law became a mixture of house law and imperial law in house districts, jointly enforced by house guards and legion guards, with temple law and imperial law enforced by the temple districts by ordinators. The temple was still recognized as the majority religion, but worship of the 9 divines was protected by the legions and encouraged by imperial cult missions. The temple district included the city of Vivec, the fortress of Ghostgate, and all sacred and profane sites, including those blighted areas inside the Ghost Fence, and all unsettled and wilderness areas on Vardenfell. In practice, this district included all parts of Vardenfell not claimed for Redoran, Hlalu, or Tilvani districts. The temples stubbornly fought all development in their district and were largely successful. House Hlalu, in combination with imperial colonists, embarked on a rigorous campaign of settlement and development. In the decades after reorganization, Balmora and the Ascadian Isles regions have grown steadily. Caldera and Pelagiad, here we are again, are completely new settlements, and all legion forts are expanded to accommodate larger garrisons. House Tilvani, normally conservative and isolationist, has been surprisingly aggressive in expanding beyond their traditional tower villages. Disregarding the protests of the other houses, the temple, the duke, and the district council, Tilvani pioneers have been encroaching on the wild lands reserved to the temple. The Tilvani council officially disavows responsibility for these rogue Tilvani settlements, but it is an open secret that they are encouraged and supported by ambitious Tilvani mage lords, of which will become one. Under pressure from the temple, conservative House Redoran has steadfastly resisted expansion in their district. As a result, House Redoran and the temple are in danger of being politically and economically marginalized by the more aggressive and expansionist Hlalu and Tilvani interests. Interesting. The Imperial administration faces many challenges in the Vardenfell district, but the most serious are the Great House rivalries, animosity from Ashlander nomads, internal conflict within the temple itself, and the Red Mountain Blight. Struggles between Great House, Temple, and Imperial interests to control Vardenfell's resource could at any time erupt into a full-scale war. Ashlanders raise settlements, plunder caravans, and kill foreigners on their wild lands. The temple has unsuccessfully attempted to silence criticism and calls for reform within its ranks. But the most serious are the plagues and diseased hosts produced by the Blightstorm sweeping out of Red Mountain. Vardenfell and all Morrowind have long been menaced by the legendary evils of Dagoth and his ash vampire kin dwelling beneath Red Mountain. For centuries, the temple has contained this threat within the Ghost Fence. But recently, the temple's resources and will have faltered, and the threat from Red Mountain has grown in scale and intensity. As if the Ghost Fence should fall, and hosts of blighted monsters were to spill out across Vardenfell's town and villages, the Empire might have no choice but to evacuate Vardenfell district and abandon it to disease and corruption. Oh, that's nice. Let's put a little perspective on things. That was a good read. That well worth it. Okay, next, A Dance in Fire, Chapter 3 by Wyan Jarth. Mother Pascot disappeared into the sordid hole that was her tavern, and emerged a moment later with a scrap of paper with Lodi's Durus's familiar scroll. Decimus Scotti held it up before a patch of sunlight that had found its way through the massive boughs of the tree city and read. Okay, so this is following on straight on from the last one, where he almost got eaten by a great big bug thing. Scotti. So you made it to Valinwood. Congratulations. I'm sure you had quite an adventure getting here. Unfortunately, I'm not here anymore, as you probably guess. There's a town down river called Athi I'm at. Get a boat and join me. It's ideal. I hope you brought a lot of contracts, because these people need a lot. At least he puts a lot in 2 words. A lot of building done. They were close to the war, you see, but not so close they don't have any money left to pay. Haha, meet me down here as soon as you can. Honestly, I've seen a lot worse Facebook posts than this, so that's fine. So, Scotty pondered. Durus had left Falinesti and gone someplace called Athi. Given his poor penmanship and ghastly spelling, it could equally well be Athi, Api, Othri, Imthri, Uther, or Kakamaka. The sensible thing to do, Scotty knew, was to call this adventure over and try to find some way to get back home to the Imperial City. He was no mercenary devoted to a life of thrills. He was, or at least had been, a senior clerk at a successful private building commission. Over the last few days, he had been robbed by a Cathay rat, taken on a death march through the jungle by a gang of giggling Bosmeri, half-starved to death, drugged with fermented pig's milk, nearly slain by some kind of giant tick, and attacked by archers. So we haven't seen this one, but we've seen the rest. He was filthy, exhausted, and had, he counted, 10 gold pieces to his name. Now the man whose proposal brought him to the depths of misery was not even there. This was both judicious and seemingly to abandon the enterprise entirely. And yet, a small but distinct voice in his head told him, "You have been chosen. You have no other choice but to see this through." Scotty turned to the stout old woman, Mother Pascott, who had been watching him curiously. "I was wondering if you knew of a village that was at the edge of the recent conflict with elsewhere. It's called something like Athi?" "You must mean Athay," she grinned. My middle lad. Vigilil. He manages a dairy down there. Beautiful country, right on the river. Is that where your friend went?" "Yes," said Scotty. "Do you know the fastest way to get there?" After a short conversation, and an even shorter ride to Falinesti's routes by way of the platforms, and a jog to the riverbank, Scotty was negotiating transport with a huge, fair-haired Bosmer with a shape like a pickled carp. He called himself Captain Balefix, but even Scotty, with his sheltered life, would realise him for what he was, a retired pirate for hire, a smuggler for certain, and probably much worse. His ship, which had clearly been stolen in the distant past, was a bent old Imperial sloop. 50 gold and we'll be in Athay in 2 days' time," boomed Captain Balefix expansively. "I have 10. No, sorry, 9 gold pieces," replied Scotty, and feeling a need for explanation added, "I had 10, but I gave one to the platform fireman to get me down here." 9 is just as fine," said the captain agreeably. "Truth be told, I was going to Athay whether you paid me or not. Make yourself comfortable in the boat, and we'll be leaving in just a few minutes." Decimus Scotty boarded the vessel, which sat low in the water of the river, stacked high with crates and sacks that spilled out of the hold and galley and onto the deck. Each was marked with stamps advertising the most innocuous substances: copper scraps, lard, ink, high rock meal, marked for cattle, tar, fish jelly. Scotty's imagination reeled, picturing what sorts of illicit imports were truly aboard. It took more than those few minutes for Captain Balefix to haul the rest of his cargo, but in an hour the anchor was up and they were sailing downriver towards Athay. The green-grey water barely rippled, only touched by the fingers of the breeze. Lush plant life crowded the banks, obscuring from sight all the animals that sang and roared at one another. Lulled by the serene surroundings, Scotty drifted to sleep. At night he awoke and gratefully accepted some clean clothes and food from Captain Balfix. Are you going to, why are you going to Athay, if I may ask? Queried the Bosmer. I'm meeting a former colleague there. He asked me to come down from the Imperial City, where I worked at the Atreus Building Commission, to negotiate some contracts. Scotty took another bite of the dried sausages they were sharing for dinner. We're going to try and repair and refurbish whatever bridges, roads and other structures or got damaged in the recent war with the Khajiit. It's been a hard 2 years, the captain nodded his head. Though I suppose good for me and the likes of you and your friend. Trade routes cut off. Now they think there's going to be a war with Somerset Isles. Have you heard that? Scotty shook his head. I've done my share of smuggling skooma down the coast, even helping some revolutionary types escape the Maine's wrath. But now the wars have made me a legitimate trader, a businessman. The first casualties of war is always the corrupted. Scotty said he was sorry to hear that, and as they lapsed into silence, watching the stars and moon's reflection on the still water. The next day, Scotty awoke to find the captain wrapped up in his sail, torpid from alcohol, singing in a low, slurred voice. When he saw Scotty rise, he offered his flagon of Jagger. I learned a few lessons during revelry at the Western Cross. Yeah, he did. The captain laughed and then burst into tears. I don't want to be legitimate. Other pirates I used to know are still raping and pillaging and stealing and smuggling and selling nice folk like you into slavery. I swear to you, I've never thought the first time I ran into a real shipment of legal goods that my life would turn out like this. Oh, I know, I could go back to it, but Banda knows not after what I've seen. I'm a ruined man. Scotty helped the weeping mare out of the sail, murmuring words of reassurance. Then he added, forgive me for changing the subject, but where are we? Oh, moaned Captain Balefix miserably. We made good time. Athay's right around the bend in the river. Then it looks like Athay's on fire, said Scotty, pointing. A great plume of smoke, black as pitch, was rising above the trees. As they drifted around the bend, they next saw the flames, and then the blackened skeletal remains of the village. Dying, blazing villagers leapt from rocks into the river. A cacophony of wailing met their ears, and they could see, roaming along the edges of the town, figures of Khajiit soldiers bearing torches. Bandar, bless me, slurred the captain. The war's back on. Oh no, whimpered Scotty. The sloop drifted with the current towards the opposite shore, away from the fiery town. Scotty turned his attention there, and the sanctuary it offered. Just a peaceful arbour, away from the horror. There was a shudder of leaves in two of the trees, and a dozen lithe Khajiit dropped to the ground, armed with bows. They see us, hissed Scotty, and they've got bows. Well, of course they have bows, snarled Captain Balefish. We Bosman may have invented the bloody things, but we didn't think to keep them a secret, you bloody bureaucrat. Now they're setting their arrows on fire. Yes, they do that sometimes. Captain, they're shooting at us. They're shooting at us with flaming arrows. Ah, so they are, the captain agreed. The aim there is to avoid being hit. But hit they were, and very shortly afterwards. Even worse, the second volley of arrows hit the supply of pitch, which ignited in a tremendous blue blaze. Scotty grabbed Captain Balefix, and they leapt overboard just before the ship and all its cargo disintegrated. The shock of the cold water brought the Bosmer into his temporary sobriety. He called to Scotty, who was already swimming as fast as he could towards the bend. Master Decimus, where do you think you're swimming to? Back to Philanesti, cried Scotty. It will take you days, and by the time you get there, everyone will know about the attack on Athay. They'll never let anyone they don't know in. The closest village downriver is Greenos. Maybe they'll give us shelter. Scotty swam back to the captain, and side by side they began paddling in the middle of the river, past the burning residuum of the village. He thanked Mara that he had learned to swim. Many in Cyrodiil did not, as largely landlocked the imperial province was. He had been raised in Mar Kurup, or had he been raised in Mar Kurup or Artemon, he might have been doomed, but the imperial city itself was encircled by water, and every lad and lass there knew how to cross without a boat, even those who grew up to be clerks and not adventurers. Captain Balefix's sobriety faded as he grew used to the water's temperature. Even in wintertime, the Xylo River was fairly temperate, and after a fashion, even comfortable. The Bosmer's strokes were uneven, and he'd stray closer to Scotty and then further away, pushing ahead and then falling behind. Scotty looked to the shore to his right. The flames had caught the trees like tinder. Behind them was an inferno, with which they were barely keeping pace. To the shore on their feet, all looked fair. To the shore on their left, all looked fair, until he saw a tremble in the river reeds, and then what caused it. A prize of the largest cats he had ever seen. They were auburn-haired, green-eyed beasts with jaws and teeth to match his wildest nightmares, and they were watching the two swimmers and keeping pace. Captain Balfix, if we can't go to either that shore or the other one, it will be parboiled or eaten, Scotty whispered. Try to even your kicking and your strokes. Breathe like you would normally. If you're feeling tired, tell me and we'll float on our backs for a while. Everyone who has had the experience of giving rational advice to a drunkard would soon understand the hopelessness. Scotty kept pace with the captain, slowing himself, quickening, drifting left and right, while the Bosmer roamed old ditties from his pirate days. When he wasn't watching his companion, he watched the cats on the shore. After a stretch, he turned to his right. Another village had caught fire. Unfortunately, it was Grinos. Scotty stared at the blazing fury, awed by the sight of the destruction. He did not hear that the captain had ceased to sing. When he turned back, Captain Balfix was gone. Scotty dove into the murky depths of the river over and over again. There was nothing to be done. When he surfaced after his final search, he saw that the giant cats had moved on, perhaps assuming that he too would drown. He continued his lonely swim downriver. A tributary, he noted, had formed a final barrier, keeping the flames from spreading further. But there were no more towns. After several hours, he began to ponder the wisdom of going ashore. Which shore was the question? He was spared the decision. Ahead of him was a rocky island with a bonfire. He didn't know if he were intruding on a party of Bosmeri or Khajiiti, only that he could swim no more. With straining, aching muscles, he pulled himself onto the rocks. There were Bosmer refugees, he gathered, even before they told him. Roasting over the fire was the remains of one of the giant cats that had been stalking him through the jungle on the opposite shore. Senshi tiger, said one of the young warriors ravenously. It's no animal. It's as smart as a cafe rat, or Ohms, or any other bleeding Khajiiti. Pity this one that drowned. I would have gladly killed it. You like the meat though, sweet from all the sugar those asses eat. Scotty did not know if he was capable of eating a creature as intelligent as a man or mare, but he surprised himself, as he had done several times over the last days. It was rich, succulent, and sweet, like sugared pork, but no seasonings had been added. He surveyed the crowd as he ate. A sad lot, some still weeping for lost family members. They were the survivors of both the villages of Grinos and Athay, and the war was on every person's lips. Why had the Khajiiti attacked again? Why, specifically directed at Scotty as Cyrodiil, was the great emperor not reinforcing peace in the provinces? I was to meet another Cyrodiil, he said to a Bosmer maiden who he understood to be from Athay. His name was Lodes Duras. I don't suppose you know what might have happened to him? I don't know your friend, but there were many Cyrodiils in Athay when the fire came, said the girl. Some of them, I think, left quickly. They were going to Vindisi, inland, in the jungle. I am going there tomorrow, so are many of us. If you wish, you may come with us. Decimus Scotty nodded solemnly. He made himself as comfortable as he could in the stony ground of the river island, and somehow, before much effort, he fell asleep. But he did not sleep well. Oh, the adventures of Scotty. I suppose because Scotty never has any gold and he's always bumbling from sort of one area to the other and that kind of thing, Karish can see a lot of what Scotty's been through mirrored in what he's going through now on an adventure that he probably never intended to take, and he's just kind of going on with it because he feels that he ought to, because it might be worth it at the end. So, nice. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. Next time, House Sylvani, selling these books and the diamond and the sapphire, and we'll see what happens. Thank you very much for watching. And toodaloo.